The Sweet Sound of Success show is brought to you by the Mentor Studio. The Mentor Studio is an exclusive mentoring and training program for social influencers, business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, and startups, bringing personal development to the underserved around the world. And brought to you by Success Strategists. Simple strategies that work to develop your business with flow and ease using proven strategies and the right tactics. This is the Sweet Sound of Success with Sue Wilhite, Success Attraction Expert. Dr. Ali Lankerani, a clinical neuroscientist, is affectionately known by his patients as Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer. Dr. L is an internationally published best-selling author, speaker, and coach. He was twice voted as one of America's top doctors. He is the host of the TV channel Role Model Maker and ran an award-winning private practice helping kids with autism spectrum disorders. He currently runs online programs that support parents and their children and encourages healthy development and growing relationships. You can find him regularly speaking at a variety of venues on health, lifestyle, and personal as well as child development. Welcome, Dr. L. I am so excited.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to share my message with you, with the world.
Well, we need your message to get out in the world. When I first heard about you, and even before I met you, it was like, oh my goodness, okay, he needs to be connected to all of these people. I sent you connection requests for all of these different people because your message needs to be heard. This is awesome.
Thank you.
So for those of my audience who don't know me or the show and are showing up because Dr. L told them to, this story is formatted on the hero's journey from Joseph Campbell. And the hero's journey actually is a cycle of about 16 different phases. And I'm pulling out 5 of them to really focus on the entrepreneurial journey, because that's kind of the subtitle of the show, is the hero's journey for the entrepreneur's soul. As such, we're going to be talking about the ordinary beginning, which I find hilarious because no entrepreneur has an ordinary beginning. I don't care what they say. The call to action, what brought Dr. L to do what he's doing. The big hairy monsters, because all entrepreneurs get to deal with the big hairy monsters. And sometimes that's the call to action. Sometimes it's the inner stuff that we get to dance with. Sometimes it's the outer stuff. And sometimes with the outer stuff, we get to have guides, mentors, coaches, folks, wizards who show up at our doorstep and say, hey, this is what you need to do. And that is so important for the entrepreneurial journey. We can't do it alone. I just keep saying that over and over again. And then finally, what Joseph Campbell calls the journey home. And the journey home is after the hero has had all of his or her adventures and they've dealt with the big hairy monsters and they've done these really cool things, and nobody at home has really done those. And or they've had a different set of experiences. How do you fit into the world again? How do you mesh with that? And sometimes it's really cool and sometimes it's not. So I'm always fascinated with how does that work out in the entrepreneurial life. Dr. L, what was your ordinary beginning?
So Sue, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, when I start, you're going to hear it was anything but ordinary because I was literally driving home from a busy day at practice. I had a private practice. It was an award-winning practice. I had an awesome day. It was a record-breaking practice day, and I helped lots of people, and I was feeling good. the sun was even shiny. I was actually remembering that when I was going home. And as great as it was, as if you just accomplished or finished a marathon or something, that you just pulled in a great day. I'm going home knowing that I've helped people, knowing that financially I was doing well, and the recognition and the fame and the success. And yet I was unhappy. And I tried to figure out what the source of unhappiness was. And at the moment, it seemed like I wanted to serve in a bigger way. And my clinic, the very thing that was such a foundational piece for my success and who I was with my source of identity, was a limiting factor to serving in a bigger way. The brick and mortar office that I had was starting to show its restraints as far as how much it could support me in being able to lead in a bigger way. So I don't know about the target audience and where they're coming from, but most of us, we like to be impactful. We want to be influential, make a difference in the world. We want to leave this world a better place. So I guess if I had a common beginning, this was it, that I realized that I wanted to serve in a bigger way. And yet the successes that I had accumulated were preventing me from getting there. And in some cases, people actually see the opposite of it, that their failures would be the reason for why they can't serve in a bigger way. But ultimately, it's our wanting to serve in a bigger way is the commonality of that.
Absolutely. And I think that is an incredibly important insight, that it doesn't matter what you've done or not done. It's if you've got the burning desire to reach out and do more for the world, then that's all that matters.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that started. And I actually experienced the same thing years later, almost 5-6 years later, after I was, once again, I was someplace where I should not have been complaining. I was in my dream house, having my dream car, dream kids, just spending my morning, weekday, just cleaning the dishes because I had the time to do that. And I'm like, why am I unhappy again? And this time it felt like I, once again, was not making the impact that I wanted to make, because I was not utilizing the blessings and the gifts of my life and what I had been given to that point to their fullest. That I had these gifts, I had these blessings, and yet I was kind of keeping them to myself. And I remember that this feeling was something that I had experienced before after that realization with the clinic. And that was the fact that I had realized that for me, I needed to serve in a bigger way, and I wasn't stepping up to the plate.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a source of frustration that I could not go ahead and do this, that I felt trapped, and I wanted to find out a way out of the situation, no matter how good the situation was or how bad the situation is. Sometimes if it's bad, it's extra motivation because you're not in your comfort zone. You actually are motivated to actually do something about it to bring it about.
So it was like there was a little voice going, yeah, you could do better than this.
Yeah, I mean, when I made that realization in practice that I wanted to serve in a bigger way, every day that I would go there and I see my patients, I would think about all the different people that I did not get to reach out to, all the different people that I needed to. So I either had to become a businessman and have multiple centers, which is not what I wanted to do, or I had to devote my entire time into my profession. And I felt like in life in general, as a whole person, I had more gifts than just my professional career. And that became a source of frustration because I felt like I was the best kept secret, that I could not share my gifts in a bigger way. So different approaches, same problem. And I did what any normal person would really think twice before doing. And in hindsight, I look at it as a sense of courageousness, because I decided to close my practice. An award-winning practice with success, with stability. and I closed it. And this is something I don't share often, where it's like people are like, why did you do that? And I actually had an identity crisis for a number of years, that if I'm a doctor and I'm not seeing patients, then who am I? Right.
Right.
So it
Right.
took a long time for me to figure out what my gifts are, what my passions are. And then once I figured those things out, now we moved to the time where I was in my dream house and washing the dishes. And I realized, all right, I have my passions, I have my gifts. What am I doing with them?
Mm.
And it reminded me of the importance of the connectivity, being connected to our past, to our future, to how we want to lead life, and the people who actually can support us get there. And this is basically where my journey began about 6 years ago, about making a change so that I can lead that legacy and go ahead and step into a life where I can use my failures and successes in making the world a better place.
Wow. Yeah. And I'll just say for the benefit of my audience, go Google this. He has. He's done an amazing job so far. Discovering your gifts, discovering your passions. What were some of the big hairy monsters that you came up against in blocking that path?
Right. So this is going to affect a few of the people listening to this. First of all, some of you, well, I know, so you do know that because I've talked to you before. I actually have ADHD. I grew up with ADHD, and I was not an easy child. And I was often described as bright and mischievous. And this was before there was a diagnosis. So people were trying to put a label on me, basically.
Right.
And so in private practice, I actually could identify with a lot of the patients as well as the parents as well. Now, one of the things that happened was I was always a busy thinker. I had too many thoughts in my head. They were very disorganized, and it was very difficult to hear my thoughts and follow my logic. And people who have known me for decades, they always tell me, you're always ahead of time. Like whenever you say something, we don't always understand why you say it. But then time kind of proves over and over again that you were correct in your thinking and your logic. And time could tell that that's what was supposed to happen, or I should have done this, or whatever it is. Right. And because of that, many people said, oh, you do great at coaching and mentorship, because I always had these insights and people didn't know why. But then when they experienced the logic and the thought process, they would see it. But one of the criticisms that I used to get was, your brain is too busy, it's too full, you need to declutter, you need to get rid of these things. And as a result, I always thought that, I need to clear my mind, I need to, do less, think slower, so the rest of the people can keep up with me, and so on and so forth. In addition to that, I process differently. That's one of the conditions of the entire autism spectrum disorders. So I operate better under pressure. I do not do well with this extended deadline, that timeline that eventually I do one thing every day until the end point. I actually work better under pressure, and you call that procrastination. But my genius really comes in when I actually do things last minute, impromptus and things like that. So that was something that I always was also ashamed of and tried to work around it until pretty much late in life, until college. But these kind of suggestions of people who were loving and wanted to give me helpful suggestions, the end result, it was impacting my confidence level. The impact of it was causing me not to be authentic to my true self. And as a result, when you don't accept yourself for who you are, you lose contact with what drives you, what your passions are, who you really are, and what you want to accomplish in this life. And if any of us in the audience members, you're professionals, you've gone through schooling, just simple 12 years of our K-12 studying, we get institutionalized on how to form and fit into society. It was designed based out of the Industrial Revolution, getting us into this industrial machine. So your passions and projects were not the top priority at the time. Very few people got to actually express those. And nowadays we are kind of improving that and making changes, but we're far from that. And that's one of the things that I'm passionate about, optimizing human potential. And what better place to start than with children's potential, right? And I have my stories about that. But without digressing and going into too much of those details, it took me a while. It took me 2 years to find my identity after I closed the practice, because I had lost contact with those passions. And it was hard soul searching to be able to connect with those things all over again. And then once I connected with it later on, that's why I was in my dream house and my dream car, because those were some of the things that I was passionate about. And once you can connect with those things, you can materialize them, you can realize them, right? But I was still not utilizing my full scope of skills and talents and passions. And that's where the discomfort came in again, that I needed to do something else to build my legacy. And I had some great role models in my family that and ancestry that have served that purpose. And I could see that how what you do today can impact the lives of millions tomorrow. And you should never give up your most valuable asset, your time, just carelessly, because its implications just funnel out into the universe going forward.
Right. I think about myself, a couple of decades ago, when before I was on the path that I was on, I thought I was on a good path. I'd thrown over the corporate job and I was, doing my own business and I was helping people. And yet I look back at myself where I was, spending my weekends essentially on the couch watching what I call stupid TV. Every weekend. And that's what I did. And, nowadays I realized that I was depressed because I wasn't doing what I needed to be doing. Absolutely. Right. It's one of the aspects of depression is stuffing those dreams, those ambitions, those passions in when you start doing them, suddenly the depression is gone or greatly reduced, and you're out there doing stuff in the world. And I look back at myself going, so get off the couch. What were you thinking?
Right. So what you're saying is spot on. And this connecting within enabled me to start pointing in the right direction. Now, another source of frustration I had both in practice and then moving forward from that day in the dishwashing was the fact that, all right, I have this passion, I have this desire, this is my mission in life. Where's my first step? And that part is connecting with the world outside of you. So this concept of connectivity not only exists in our brain, that it tries to connect the mind and the body, but also it needs to connect to the world and the universe at large, right? So now you want to connect with the world, and the practice was preventing me from doing that because I was busy focusing on my patients to the point where I couldn't connect to the world outside. And when I was in that place washing the dishes and looking out the window at the beach, it was the same thing. I'm like, I'm not reaching out to the world. I'm here doing what pleases me, but I'm not reaching out to the world. So that is the second part of this, that yes, you need to connect within yourself, but equally important, if not more important, is for us to reach out to the world, not only for support, but also to be able to make a difference, right? Yes. So that's the other part, that I had difficulty finding support in clinic so that I could step away from it. I had difficulty reaching out to people because of my processing or my modes of communication. And later on, I had process difficulty connecting to the world because I simply chose not to connect with them. I gave up to some degree, right? Right. So you could be the most genius person, the most talented person, the most amazing talents and skills and abilities. But if you are an island and you try to do all the heavy lifting yourself, your time, your resources are going to run out. So you do have to connect to the world around you so that it can go ahead and support you. You're part of this universe. And You can't fight the universe in getting what you need done. You need to utilize the universe in getting what you need done.
Right, right. You are a finite resource and you have access to infinite resources, essentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that has been the biggest transformation and the biggest realization. And the biggest part of what most people don't realize, that that is the biggest part of your wealth. So people think of finances, or people go and spend years and years learning a skill or learn knowledge, but those are not your greatest assets. Those are the ones that require time, your limited time. One of the biggest asset groups is your connections that actually are the biggest part of your wealth. They can buy
yes.
that, those connections can buy you time, those connections can get you knowledge and skills, those connections can connect you to resources and finances. So connections is where most of us need to focus our time on so that we increase our ability to impact the world in a better way.
And that being said, that leads very naturally to the guides, mentors, coaches, folks. Is there anybody that I mean, you don't have to, but is there anybody that you want to call out as being particular helpers, as examples of utilizing the universe's resources and helping you out?
Absolutely. First of all, I've had mentors all along, and sometimes I didn't even recognize them and didn't put that name on them. But in hindsight, looking back, I'm like, all right, he was a mentor and he was a mentor and he impacted me in a big way. So whether you realize it or not, you do have mentors, but actively seeking mentors is a completely different ballgame. And I started doing this early on in my professional life. And I saw how it catapulted me to the next level, something that would have taken me years to figure out. All of a sudden, I was doing it in months. And I, like I told you about this whole connectivity thing and how to connect to the world and share my talents and skills. And what I made that realization, what was it, 10, 15 years ago, and I struggled to figure out simply meeting my mentor that ultimately got me to where I am today. His name is Mr. Iman Agai. He's based out of Vancouver. And when I met him, people had been telling me I should mentor, I should do a TED talk, I should coach, I should teach at university. And I had seen the results, and I had seen the results in private practice. I was aware of it, but I was not able to make the impact that I wanted to. And he said, if you have a message to share with the world, come and work with me. And literally now we're looking at it, including COVID, that kind of really disconnected us for a number of years. For when you look at it, within the past 2.5 years or so, I have been a TEDx speaker. I've become a best-selling author. I launched my current company. I have managed to help thousands of people.
Right.
And now I'm reaching out to impact the world in a much bigger way. And all of this is because he showed me a system, a model where I can improve my ability to connect. And in that process, I created something that allows me to evolve and doesn't
Nice.
get trapped into a business like I did last time with the private practice. So this is something that a lot of our heart-centered healthcare professionals is a source of frustration for them. They feel like trapped in the healthcare system or an industry where there's very little flexibility, whether it's guidelines of insurance or healthcare protocols or scientific protocols, and there's no wiggle room for them to do anything outside the box. And here I am giving you that message that it is possible, it is doable, and you just gotta think outside the box, connect with how you want to show up in the world, and go from there. So, yeah, shout out to him, and also I can talk more about the transformations and the changes that has happened over the years as well. But one of the things is, yes, I started being able to reach out to more people to help in their health, in their relationship, and so on and so forth. I started being able to step up and coach people who serve these kind of audiences as well. So speakers and entrepreneurs who serve families are high on my list of people that I have a passion to help out. Then on top of that, one of the things that happened as a side product of this is that because my passion is in working with children, I and one of the things I actually forgot to mention with my ADHD is the fact that although I mentioned COVID as something that disconnected us, my company grew tenfold during COVID. All right.
Wow. Wow.
And so because you step forward as a leader and you show up in ways to see how you can serve the needs of the community. And you as an entrepreneur, you're in the prime position to do that, to make that happen. The flexibility that this field provides for you is amazing. And to be able to do that, and to be able to grow in such a level, to be able to impact and influence so many lives and be seen and heard in such a big way is huge. And the automation process enabled me to work with people from around the world, including virtual assistants. So now I'm working on talking on world stages like United Nations, World Bank, any government agency that can bring about social change to impact family life and to optimize children's potential. And through the nonprofit organization and creating an enrichment program that teaches kids all the stuff they don't learn in school,
Right.
we are also enabling families to break out of poverty and violence cycles. We are also enabling heart-centered individuals, entrepreneurs that work in the developed countries to connect with virtual assistants from around the world, not only to put food on the table in those places, but also for them to learn new skills and serve as a shining role model for their kids so that they understand when they want to be a viable economic entity for their community, there's more options than gangs and militia and warfare.
Right.
And for them to step into roles that make this world a better place. Connecting, all of it is connecting, right? Yes. So that is my call to action for you guys, to make sure that you connect. You connect to your audience members, you connect to your mentors, you connect to people who can support you, and basically be seen, be heard, and fulfill your message and your mission in this lifetime.
Mic drop. Yes, absolutely. Everything he said. Talk a little bit about, I hate to break the mood. Talk a little bit about how did your family, friends, acquaintances deal with your shift out of having, oh boy, I've got a successful award-winning practice and I'm going to close it.
Yes, it's a very good point. First of all, of course, everybody thought that I was crazy. They were in shock, and so was I, because I just lost my identity, right? So right. I didn't have a good answer for them, and that's what made it so difficult, because people keep coming to you and saying, what are you going to do next? Or are you going to start your next practice? Or what's going on with you? And they're concerned, genuinely concerned about you. And you're the person with the vision, right? So if you don't have that vision, it becomes that much more impactful for you, because you start doubting yourself. Am I crazy? What am I doing with my life? And so these doubts and these questions come to your mind. So when the doubts are from inside, I always say, have this top-down, inside-out approach. So of course, I'm biased. I've studied the brain for so long. I know how it develops. So I always say, support your brain so that it in turn can go ahead and support you. So I want to make sure that I'm feeding my brain properly. I'm getting rest. I'm getting enough physical activity so that my brain is well connected, well pumped up, and ready to go with fuels, right? So that was the starting point to get a handle on my own health. So that was the first part. Having a good handle on my own health enabled me to see opportunities, and opportunities that you see when you're feeling crushed and pressed and stressed and fighting for survival are very different than the same opportunities when you are in your thrive mode, in your feeling supported. So you would meet somebody for a business meeting and you could think, how can I win over this person, or what is it in it for them, and trying to do this win-lose situation. Whereas when you are supported internally, you step into that meeting confident, calm, and you look for collaborative thoughts and ideas. So it's a win-win situation. And that is what's sustainable. It's sustainable for our planet. It's sustainable for our society. It can eliminate things like wars and oppression and violence and those kind of things. Something as simple as that you do on your own term can go ahead and make you show up in a better way for your family, so that when they say something to you, you don't feel like they're coming at you, that they're actually on your side, and you can be more loving as a result. There's bigger capacity there. So that health impacts your relationship and everything else. So long story, long answer to your question of what did people think. The initial part is concern, genuine concern. Then comes all the suggestions and thoughts of what you should do, you shouldn't do. Here is the important part, because I went through this process for a better part of a decade, right? And if you have not been true to yourself and your passions, the people that gather around you, they don't always know who you truly are. Right. So there was a lot of surprise in this transformation process. Many people commented, I don't know you anymore. What's happening with you? And they're honestly worried that you're going crazy or something, and they don't know how to support you neither, because how you connected with them and the support that you were receiving from them, all of the nature of that relationship, that connectivity now has to change. And if you buckle in and give in to the old relationship, you go back to the way you were, and now you're not being your true self with certain groups of people around you. So you need to kind of either refine or prune this connectivity so that it serves who you're gonna be, not who you've been. So that process I went through for an entire 10 years. And I think as evolution continues in our development and how we want to show up in the world, you're going to keep going through that process. People that you used to know that you don't know anymore, or you're not as involved with, right? So it's a very dynamic thing. I hope I answered your question.
Yes. No, I think that's one of the better answers that I've had. And so true. You gather, what is it? We're the average of the 6 people that we have around us the most. Right. And there's a lot of good reasons for that. And if you're showing up as not you, then those are the people that are going to be attracted. And when you suddenly go, oh, wait, I need to be me, suddenly you're not the average of those 6 anymore. You're a different sum altogether. Absolutely. And it causes a little bit of tension.
Absolutely. It's very unsettling, but the reality is, if any of you guys have ever heard somebody say, I can't believe I get paid to do this, or I'm living my dream job, or it doesn't feel like work to me, and you're like, yeah, right, or you think it has to do something with going on holiday and drinking champagne while you're making money, and maybe that is your thing, but when you think that it is something that is not possible, or if it is possible, it is not realistic for you, let me tell you this, that currently what I do, the people that I meet, I mean, Sue, I've met you before, we've had fun together, and it doesn't feel like work, right? So that's the point of it, that you as entrepreneurs have chosen this path, oftentimes not the easiest path, because you're passionate about something and you want to hang around people who will support you and go the distance with you when it comes to your passion. So everybody that I meet is a delightful person that I meet. Everything that I'm doing is serving a purpose. Yes. And at the end of the day, if you've heard of people say, oh, the money is just the reward of doing the work or filling a need, that's what it is. And it is true. It's like, I'm not looking at the money side of it, but the money side comes in without me keeping track of it. And right. I want every single one of you to be in that position. But that means you have to be connected within, and you have to be connected to the world outside as well.
So thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. L. I truly am appreciative. I know that time is valuable in your world. It is one of your biggest assets that you talk about. And I really appreciate that you've given me your time to be on this show, and bless you for all of the work that you do. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Sue, for the opportunity. And thank you, audience members, for tuning in and listening to me ramble on. I really appreciate you as well.
Yes, thank you to my audience and viewers of The Sweet Sound of Success. What are your dreams for your business? You know what drives me crazy? Really smart business owners denying their talents because they've been taught it has to be hard, because they've been taught that they don't deserve their gifts, that they're not worth anything. They've been taught that their gender means they can't express their genius. I'm Sue Wilhite, and I want you to have access to your genius. I want you to go out and rock the world with your genius. So I created the Call to Action Coaching Program. It's all about getting to the heart of you and what you've got to share with the world to make a profitable business that thrives and allows you to make a difference in the world. Click the link to sign up for the Call to Action Coaching Program today. Don't let your genius go unnoticed.